this is going to have like the time taken and maybe way better. So today, like I said, we're talking about a golden age of Islam. Does anyone have any ideas what a golden age means? What am I talking about when I say a golden age? Always the same hands, always the same people. Makes me sad. Rajvir.
I think the golden age is something like where it was a good time period where they were really successful.
Okay. Good time period that was successful. Malaya, what do you think, hon?
Like the same thing as Rajvir.
Oh, he stole your brain knowledge. What a brain knowledge thief. Monster. All right. Eli, what do you say, broski?
They were very strong economically.
Ooh, strong economics. I like that. Yeah, that's going to be a big part of it. All right. And a hand rises from the Joel. All right.
They're conquering places which help their empire grow.
Okay. Here's what I got. You guys all have parts of it. So, golden age, time of peace, prosperity, and great cultural achievements. Now, sometimes we have golden ages, and it's not necessarily peaceful because they're like still going to war, but there's like peace within their own selves where they don't have like civil wars and stuff. This golden age is mostly going to be pretty peaceful because war is actually going to end it. So this one, you do not need to write everything on here. You need to know the idea that merchants are going to be incredibly important in the Arab world. And we should have an idea about this because remember, Muhammad's job before being the prophet was being a merchant. And he was famous for it and thought of very highly because he, was an honest, good merchant. So what's going to happen is these merchants are going to create a humongous and awesome trade empire throughout this. And part of the reason why they're going to be so successful, and this is another aspect that I want you to highlight on here, so you need to know merchants were very important in the Muslim world, and that part of the reason that made them successful was look, whoa, how did I even do that? Whoa, how do I undo that? Okay, cool. Was the fact that they all spoke Arabic. So Arabic is going to wind up making trade really possible and really successful. So Arab merchants, wherever they were, they spoke Arabic. And it didn't matter if they were Persian Muslims, if they were African Muslims, if they were Spanish Muslims. They all learned Arabic because the Quran was written in Arabic. So just like how when we were discussing Christianity and how the Catholic Church's stance was that Latin is the language of the church, and how a lot of people couldn't even read Latin, but still their Bible was in Latin, and it was a big deal when people started translating the Bible into their own languages. For Islam, Arabic is going to be the language of the Quran. And so for a person to be a good Muslim, they needed to be able to read the Quran, so they needed to know Arabic. So all of these merchants all spoke Arabic. So from the Silk Road in China going all the way to Spain, we have people speaking the same language. And just like how today English is a language of trade, people all over the world know English so they can make lots of money because lots of people speak English that spend money. It's going to be the same thing at this time period with Arabic. So from this slide, you need to know that merchants are going to be incredibly important and they have a huge amount of trade because they all speak Arabic. Okay. So, and the Silk Road, we talked about that last year. We're going to talk about it more this year. We have this amazing trade route going from China all the way to the Middle East. And guess what? Those goods don't just stop there. Lydia's not like, I'm going to hoard this silk and have the comfiest clothes ever. No, she's like, I'm going to get paid. She starts trading it with Africa, starts trading it with Europe, and makes lots and lots of money. Yeah. By the way, the Silk Road was not a road made of silk. It is a road, well, not even a road. It is a trade route that things like silk were traded on. Hopefully you remember that from last year. Hey, Eli's like, I didn't have that last year. Well, guess what? You should have, bro. All right. Let's talk about art. All right. Islamic art is pretty cool because Islamic art, they were forbidden to draw people. Now, this is going to have another parallel to what we talked about. Do we remember anything we talked about where, like, people having like pictures of people and I thought that was a bad idea and Nora like started smashing things with a hammer? Do we remember that? Yes, Iris, darling.
I
in our last unit when they thought they were false worshiping idols, and so they destroyed them all.
Yeah. Yeah, we have our iconoclasm. And so they wanted to avoid that. So basically the rule was don't make art of people. Because let's face it, we have some amazing artists in here. What if Rachel, who was one of the greatest artists who've ever graced this earth, made a portrait of me, the handsomest 6th grade history teacher you have this year? And of course, like that would be such an amazing work of art that people might just start worshiping such a great portrait, you know? So the idea was just no people. We don't want to endanger that. So instead we get geometric shapes in art and like this really cool stuff right here. Now, you actually either have or will do an art project, usually in your math classes when you take geometry, called tessellations. And that's a perfect example of an Islamic style of art where you take a shape and then you move it and there's usually all these colors and it's awesome. This thing right over here, I think is a tessellation. I can't remember exactly though, but you'll definitely do them. I'm pretty sure Mrs. Sailors had you guys do some tessellations last year, if I remember correctly. Or she made the 6th graders last year who are the now 7th graders. I don't know. All right, another thing, and I'll get to your question in one moment, sir, is they use calligraphy. Now, calligraphy, of course, is fancy handwriting. Now, we know I could not do calligraphy because my handwriting font is called illegible, but people with really, really fancy cool writing make beautiful art with their words. Now, someone right now is thinking, Senor Kenny, this looks like a person. You totally screwed up. They have a person here and it's supposed to be forbidden. No, it's actually writing and it's kind of in the shape of a person. These are probably words from the Quran because a lot of the calligraphy that we're going to see there are from their holy book, just like this one right here. I don't speak Arabic, so I do not know what they say, but it's probably from the Quran. And we have this beautiful writing, which is an art in itself. Yes, I remember, Joel. It was pretty good. Eli, you had a question or comment, sir?
There's this thing called silk where we can make these circle patterns that
Yeah,
are like
Joel shared that with me. It's really cool. I was like, this is the neatest thing ever. And I even actually put it on a tablet and let my daughter play around with it a little bit, and she thought it was pretty cool. Yeah, I know, right? All right, let's get to architecture just a wee bit here. So architecture. So one of the things we need to know here, and really you only need this first bullet, is the idea that Muslims, they took architecture that they saw from other places and then adapted it to their own. And we're going to have some really amazing works of art here with the buildings that they created. In the top right here, we see what's called the Dome of the Rock. It's a mosque in Jerusalem, and this is a golden dome. And if you remember when we studied our Byzantine Empire, the dome was a very important aspect of Byzantine architecture. It had this idea of the dome of heaven around earth. And because we know that our Arab caliphates, our Umayyads, are going to conquer a lot of Byzantine lands, they're going to see those domes. They're going to like, we can one-up that, we can make it better. So here for the Dome of the Rock, we've got this golden dome. Like, how beautiful and amazing is that? But there's some other aspects that they wind up going to. They wind up taking the Persian style with the arch and how they have those all built in. And we're going to see more zoomed in pictures of this kind of architecture later on. But this is all beautifully inlaid and intricate. What we have on the top here is actually going to be Arabic being written down around through that. And it's this really kind of amazing thing. We see columns like we have from the Greeks. This is more of a Roman style arch that we have right here. So they took things that were Greco-Roman, they took things that are Persian, and they made it their own as they combine these ideas. We're going to see lots of things like hexagons and octagons as well, some really cool things. Then we have like a mosque like this one right here, which is like a big version of a minaret tower. And imagine like climbing up those stairs and having almost like a chapel up at the top with the mosque. It's pretty cool stuff. Now, I am using this term mosque, and hopefully you are familiar with mosque because it was one of your chapter 14 vocabulary words that you're supposed to write down. And hopefully you didn't just Google it and cut and paste it in, because that doesn't actually teach you anything, but you actually wrote it from your book, because then that will help you remember. A mosque, of course, is a Muslim house of worship. And this would be an image inside of a mosque. Not all mosques look like this, but would be very common to have arches and columns within the mosque itself. And we see that these columns are kind of similar to our Corinthian columns that we discussed last year in the 5th grade. That is going to actually be our notes for the day. I hope you learned something. I hope you enjoyed it as well. As always, it is a joy to teach you wonderful